Hello and welcome to the Carbitrage podcast, episode 286. I'm Eric Berger, joined as always by my co-host Ryan Sininsky. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Sorry, my headphones are quiet.
I was gonna say.
I was confused. Which one's mine? This one?
I don't know. Just try them until you get one that I think
Testing,
yours. I think yours is this one, maybe.
Testing.
Testes.
Ah, there we go.
Did you find you?
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's too odd.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Anyway, before we get into anything else, patreon.com/Carbitrage. On this super cool website, you'll find 3 open-ended levels of support for listeners like you to support the producers like us, starting at just $1 a month, patreon.com/Carbitrage. On to drinks. I am still working on a Gatorade because I went pretty hard last night. The friend in town, so at the next episode I'll probably have a beer, but hydrating a little bit right now, and it looks like you've got the...
I've got a cherry vanilla Dr. Pepper from one of those
pretty
Coca-Cola Freestyle machines. So, fun fact, you can actually make Coca-Cola Freestyle taste like, okay. It's not as good as a McDonald's Coke, but the Freestyle machine, the trick is, once you select your pop, without your cup there, you just run it for a second.
Oh,
because it gets all the other syrup in it. Yeah.
It gets the jungle juice that the previous team put in their cup out of there.
Exactly. So that's the trick. It's like I would still rather have a McDonald's Coke, but here I am. I'm drinking this, and the beer I will be having at some point is a Coors,
which is the coldest beer.
Yeah, it's Colorado Kool-Aid, and that is fine. It's not a great beer, but the other option was a Summit of sorts, and I was having a discussion with Darren at some point in the last month, because he's been in town like every other week, that the Summit, pretty much everything from Summit is terrible.
Okay.
They all taste like they were left in like a clear bottle in front of a window for a month before you got it.
Okay, yeah.
Like they're permanently skunked, even if it's out of a can, it stays skunked. Like they have the worst beers. Like I don't get why people like them.
I do like the description of a skunked beer that's never seen the light of day.
Yeah, no, that's exact. It's just a Summit. Like they're terrible.
And you didn't specify which Summit was in the fridge.
Just
either.
Any
just
one.
said
Like
Summit.
literally, quite literally, they have 2 beers that are okay. Like if I'm stuck in a bar and my only choices are like Miller or like Budweiser or everything that Summit has on tap, like a Dakota Soul.
That sounds badly.
Oh, it's a little truck. It'll be, you get either a Dakota Soul, which is okay. It's like not great, but like it's fine. Or a Slugfest, which is a hazy IPA, which is pretty hard to screw up because it's just like, okay, remove lead acid taste and insert citrus.
Wow, this is so little alkaline.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just make fruity beer, fruity hazy beer. Like that's what you make. And
can you see through it? No, go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, so like that's the thing is it's supposed to be fruity and hazy. Like that's pretty. It's a pretty easy like
flavor profile to
yeah, like don't screw that up. So Summit managed to not screw up the most simple of beers, but instead we decided to when we were at the Nook we decided to all have hams because hams is better.
A good decision.
Yeah, and also Dylan's friend had never had a hams because they're from they live in a really bad state. So
I won't reiterate, but yeah, he said it's a bad place. Like,
yeah,
I understood when he said the name of the state.
Exactly, it was Ohio. So yeah, that's been my whole 2 weeks of not drinking Summit, even though I've had multiple bars I've gone to where they're predominantly Summit. Luckily, they have a cheap, shitty beer that I like. So
the keg we have at my parents' house right now is EPA. I've been powering through.
I wouldn't.
I've actually been drinking a lot of canned Coors Light because that is my alternative.
You should get them a keg of Old Style.
I should look into that because it's actually pretty solid. We've rotated out to some interesting stuff before, like hams would be really good too.
Hams are Old Style. You get a keg of hams, you call me, and I'll make sure that keg is empty.
We also had PBR once. That was actually not a bad keg.
PBR is fine. But that's the thing is like PBR's like they're fine.
Right.
That's just what they are. That's fine. Like, it's a cheaper beer, but it's like it's fine.
I feel like there's like that group of 4 beers that everyone just has as like their mid-range beer. Some people you get gut rot from one of them, so like you avoid it from that. But like hams is just like it's a tasty beer. And Old Style I think is even better. But.
Yeah, and those are the sub premiums that we talked about a while ago.
Right.
And so hams and Old Style are like the best sub premiums, and then you have PBR, which is like readily available but kind of mid, and then you have like your weird local one that's not that great, like Boxer or Pig's Eye or Schlitz.
That's
like,
making
those
me
are
ill
all,
inside.
I'm okay with all those. Like Boxer, Old Pig's Eye, and Schlitz are fine for me, but they're. But that's the thing is like I will drink them over. They're on the level of Coors Light.
Okay.
Like I'll drink them before I stoop down to a Budweiser.
Boxer does things to my insides, which is not good.
Iron Line stomach, I'm fine. I can digest
Ryan,
I'm pretty sure that Boxer is made of cheese. So, like, it's just like, it treats your stomach like that. And me being somebody that's like, okay, eating cheese, it's not a problem.
I love cheese for the record, but like Boxer, for whatever reason, just...
Yeah, doesn't do that to me.
All right, well, I mean...
Well, also, my limit in which my stomach gets upset, I discovered last month, is the last stab at the Apollo.
Oh my.
That is the point in which my stomach gets upset.
Okay. Did you do the full continuum of sauces, or just
I skipped... so I did the first one, and then I did like the one right before Da Bomb, and then the last stab at the Apollo. And all of them were fine.
Mess with you?
Yeah, no. It was the last stab at the Apollo. That was the one that did me in. So,
I don't know if you've heard Corey's story about when he bought a bottle of Da Bomb.
Yeah.
But it sounded... His coworker took a spoonful of it, straight up, and ate it, and like he thought about having to go to the hospital.
Yeah,
I'm just like, don't do that.
You don't want to do that. It did more to my mouth than it did to my tummy.
Okay,
but
I got you.
I was a Jano experienced me having a Jana tummy for the first time, and it was just like, yeah,
solidarity.
Apparently, it's the last stab at the Apollo that upsets my stomach. Like, I will have anything prior to that and be fine.
I wonder if it's just an ingredient, because it's clearly not the heat, right?
I think it's a collection of just being every single hot ass pepper you can put all together into like being effectively like it's not too far off from just pepper spraying your mouth. So I think that's it. I think my stomach would get used to it if I had it semi-regularly.
Sure.
But like it's just I eat so much trash. Like I regularly eat McDonald's. I regularly eat like super spicy Mexican food. I eat cheese as filler throughout the day. Like I eat so many things that like would upset a normal body.
Right.
And then like I also have like salads and normal healthy food too. I have just like this like full gamut of food that I eat. And so that's why I've got this iron line stomach that's just fine with whatever I eat, because like it goes through its paces on a regular basis.
Sure.
So it knows what to do.
It's been conditioned well.
Exactly. Anyway, let's start with, did we do Patreon?
We did. Yep.
Okay. Yes. Let's start with topics.
Okay.
So we've been away for a month. I've been extremely busy. So even if we were actually doing things I wouldn't be able to record anyway.
Also, it's been last week or even 2 weeks ago. It's been so freaking hot.
Yeah, no, this is awful. I have an air-conditioned garage now, so fun fact about my air-conditioned garage. The reason I have this is my friend's apartment had the air conditioning unit in it, and the AC unit was too big for his apartment.
Like physically too big for the window, or just sized improperly?
Sized improperly.
Okay.
So, like, the landlord did the measurements in metric, not inches, for BTU. Yes.
Oh, right.
And so they needed a 9,000 BTU air conditioner for his apartment, and she got a 16,000.
That's quite oversized.
Yeah. So the 16,000, while it would work immediately, it would cycle on and off like every 5 minutes. And the entire apartment was like this humid at all times and cold. So it's gross and terrible. So she swapped it out for the correct one. Worked great. And she was going to throw this out. And my friend was like, hey, I happened to make a post on Facebook like, hey, I'm looking for an air conditioning unit for my garage. And it was like right when I moved into my house.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I've got one that I was about to throw out. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm looking for 15,500. He goes, I have a 16,000. And I'm like, that's insane. Why do you have a 16,000 BTU?
Hence the story.
He explains it to me. Oh, that makes sense. All right. And so I finally got around to putting it in my garage, and it works great. My garage, within minutes, is 69 degrees inside of it.
Nice.
Yes,
nice.
Indeed. It is very nice. It's a very nice temperature.
I have opened up the dialogue with the AC guy that I use when I don't want to do it to put one in here. Because I, just like you, I'm sure, don't appreciate the oppressive heat when we record in the summer.
Nope. This is bad.
This is bad.
I would say, oh, you give all that down there. Yeah, I don't know. That's on you, dude.
No, it'll be fine.
I just got lucky with my Freeboy 16,000 BTU air conditioner. But anyway, so in my very busy time, I, among the many things I did, which we will talk about over the next 2 episodes,
Indeed.
had the privilege of juxtaposing 2 absolutely diametrically opposed in every single way vehicles.
I would say that's pretty accurate.
I got to experience a Mitsubishi imiev and immediately followed that up with a 1968 Ford Mustang with a very warmed over 289
Hell yeah.
and a manual transmission.
Very good.
So the imiev, I cannot say enough how great the imiev is. Like it is objectively, like I called it an EV Model T on my Instagram post I made about it. I actually wrote this so I could remember my words for it. And this car is like so wacky because they widened the entire imiev several inches for the US market.
Yeah.
And it's like when you look at the dashboard, inside the dashboard is the Japanese dashboard with
Yeah.
an outer dashboard around it. That's like about a total of, I think, about 4 inches wider. And then it's also a couple inches longer too. It's very funny. Like they kept all of the scale and they just put it in CAD and they did like a scale 1.1 or 1.02.
But it was just in like a linear dimension, right?
No.
Oh.
Every dimension is like 2% bigger.
Are the doors different too then? Because
I think actually the doors are the same. They might have kept the vehicle height,
Okay.
but I think they extended the fenders,
Okay.
the windshield. I know the roof line's changed. I know the trunk is different. The bumpers are different. They might have actually changed the doors
What a money
too.
black hole.
Yeah, and so it's very fascinating because this car is. They did all this work to make it wider. Like every single piece of the car is wider. But when the little Prindle, the shifter thing, you know how I like Toyotas and like Jags and stuff, they just have that little like weird convoluted
The weird like half gate deal.
like on Mercedes.
Yeah.
Where they have that like weird little gate thing.
Yes.
You know what direction do you pull move the shifter to get it out of park?
So park, it's usually sitting on the right, so you pull it left, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
This one's sitting on the left, you pull it right. It's still the right-hand drive configuration.
Oh. So it's spring-loaded the opposite direction,
Yes.
and the gate is okay. I don't know if I like that.
It's very strange.
Okay.
I got in that. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? And I look down. I go, oh.
Probably not going to accidentally shift it, at least.
Absolutely never going to shift that out of park. But, yeah, it was very, very strange.
Oh, I should have looked at your second photo. It's in there.
Yes,
Oh,
it's right
okay.
there. See what I mean? Like, it's backwards from every other car in the world.
Yeah. Okay, so drive is loaded to the right. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's very strange. Every other car is the other way around.
And is that just a relic of like a JDM?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
They stretched the car. They did everything except for change that.
That would have taken 2 parts to correct that.
Yep.
A spring and a different shroud.
Yeah,
And they
because
just-
that's not connected to anything.
Correct.
That's literally connected to a computer board. It doesn't actually do anything. But I have to say, this is easily one of the, if not the single slowest vehicle I've ever driven in my life.
Did you ever drive the 240D before it was
I was in it.
V8'd? Okay. Was
Yeah.
it slower than that?
Yes.
Oh my god. That's
Like,
amazing.
it is, I'm not exaggerating. I'm saying this is actually, like, could very well be the slowest vehicle I've ever driven.
What is its maximum speed?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But
Not
it took
tested.
me a long time. It took me enough time to get to 55.
Okay.
Like, genuinely, I think my Subaru is faster than this.
Oh my god.
It has
Well.
it has staggered tire fitment. The front tire size is 145/65 R15.
Wow, that's narrow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So 145/15.
And the rear is 175/60 R15.
Look at that meat.
Yeah, that's a
And
meaty
it's-
boy.
Is it rear-wheel drive?
Yes.
Excellent.
And it's honestly, it is fantastic to drive. Like,
I know we've talked about IMEVs a lot in the past because there's a
I'd
huge
never
tuning scene,
been
right?
able to
But-
drive one. Yeah, and
Same.
that's true.
Yeah.
They do have a tuning scene, and that was confirmed to me by John, the owner. And he goes, "Yeah, no, in Australia, like they do like Leaf batteries and stuff, and like they make them like hilariously quick.
Is he going to do any of that or just drive it as is?
Apparently, there's a whole bunch of fuckery that has to
Oh.
happen. But he says if anything happens to the battery, yes.
Okay.
If the battery on this ever goes out, because currently it's his daily driver.
Okay.
because he just like drives it like from his house to work, occasionally to an airport where he's got an airplane. He's a big airplane guy. So also incredible solution for vehicles is he's got like a 1960s like Piper airplane.
Yeah.
And this incredible.
All right. I mean,
incredible human being.
Embrace what you love, even if it's
Yeah.
completely diametrically you know, different. I mean,
And-
that's almost like the Mustang.
But this is the thing is like, since it has such a low center of gravity, like the center of gravity, I think is like basically on the floor, if not just because of math below it.
I was gonna say it's probably underneath.
Yeah, I think it might actually have a negative center of gravity relative to the floor. And so this is the thing is you can maintain grip perfectly,
Yeah.
or you can get it to break traction. And when it breaks traction, like the ABS system just goes fucking bananas. And you actually have to keep the 145 profile front tires because otherwise the ABS will go bananas and just it will not cope with having a different tire profile.
It's a Murcielago.
Yes.
Wow.
It's basically, yeah. No, it's a Murcielago, pretty much. Super low center of gravity, rear wheel drive, rear engine.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Gated shifter of sorts.
Wide, you know?
Yeah, wider than it needs to be.
Gated
yeah.
shifter of sorts. I like it.
But like you can break traction in this. And actually, when Darren got to drive it, he drove it in the snow, and he said he was able to use up 45 miles of the range just doing donuts in a parking lot.
Very fun.
It's very fun to drive, and it's like honestly of any EV I've ever driven, this is probably the most communicative EV I've ever
well, I
driven.
can see they're pretty lightweight, I think.
They
aren't
are, yeah, and like you can feel like when it's at the edge of traction,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it's gonna tip over. Like you know it will, but like it doesn't feel like it.
That's probably why they widened it.
Yeah, I think so. Like honestly, I think like this would be a hoot to autocross. So you'd have to be careful and like mindful of it and know the car. But I think this would be very funny. And I think my favorite part of this is the interior is perfect.
What do you mean perfect?
So, first off, you can wear like a top hat in the car, which is great. And you know how I love that. And I love having a huge glass house. And this is basically just a gigantic glass house.
I was gonna say the belt line looks nice and low.
But the back seat is just like a Tesla Model S seat, where you're not Tesla, but with exactly double the amount of padding, which
Okay.
is fine for short trips. And I think that any more padding in any of the seats would be a problem. Because this is a 62-mile range. These seats are comfortable for exactly 62 miles.
So what you're saying is no accident how they engineered the seats?
Yeah, no, this is absolutely, like, this is probably, this should go down in history as one of the greatest pieces of
Thoughtful engineering.
thoughtful engineering of, like, user experience that I've ever seen.
Except the
Because-
shifter gate.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, the seats specifically.
Sure.
Because if they were more comfy, like, if these seats were, like, normal car comfy,
Yeah.
you would, like, find yourself an Owatonna out of juice
Oops.
with no fast charging capability. Like, yours...
Well, yeah, but this is what, like a 13 kilowatt hour battery? So
It
it charges
still
in like an
takes-
hour and a
no.
half? No?
No, it still takes several hours to charge.
Oh, that's
Because
dumb.
it's still early 2000s Mitsubishi
I guess.
proprietary battery technology.
I should look at how many kilowatt the onboard charger is. I'm curious
It's
now.
a very, very strange little vehicle. But yeah, no, I absolutely love it. Also, the windshield wipers are bespoke to the US model.
What, like the
Because the wipers go
blade?
like this.
Oh.
Because they have this really long passenger side arm. If you actually look closely, you can see the giant arm. That is unique to the US model. They did not have that in the Japanese one. It's very strange.
So was it still two wipers in the Japanese
Yeah,
market?
it
Okay,
was, but-
just shorter.
They didn't have the one that goes upright. They just went like this.
Okay.
Not like this.
I do like the.
Now they go like this. And that's just like the entire wiper like mechanism
Yeah.
is completely unique to the US market. Mitsubishi like totally like bet the house on this car, and this is why
That's pretty apparent.
like I'm not sure if this was a good decision. I don't think it was a good decision. Actually, I will tell you as a fact, this is an objectively terrible decision.
Is this an Avantime moment?
This is an Avantime that in America is what this is. It's an EV Avantime. It's really wild.
Okay, now I want an EV Avantime.
Yeah, that's bait. You can get one. It's an imiev.
I would love to drive one, frankly.
If you ever have the chance, do it. It is such a, you know how the Mirage puts a smile on your face when you're
Yeah.
driving it in anger. This does that too.
Well, I
Like-
mean, it's slow car fast. And
Yeah, It's the slowest car, and you never run out of its limit. It's so fun to drive.
And you don't run out of its limit with Eco 145s and 175s.
Yeah, no, you're never gonna like come to a point where I think that it would tip over, but it's like I also haven't driven it at its limit. But like I think with the Eco 145 tires, which are like $800 to replace because there's one set of tires that fit that particular.
Oh, so it's like a first gen Insight
or a i3. Yeah. Where it's just like there's exactly one set of tires that will fit.
The captive market.
Yeah, it's got a very captive market. So how about this Mustang, though, that I got to drive? Well, it is the hottest 289 I've ever been in.
Which, I mean, 289s are pretty spicy. Those were like higher compression than the 302s.
Yeah, this one was built. So the thing is, Darren bought this car because his friend built it, and the engine was originally made to be in a flat track racer.
Sure.
You know, his cars are just basically a spoiler with a direct drive 289.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's...
The ones you have to push start?
Yeah, that. The engine was made for one of those.
Okay.
And it's got like all these great suspension modifications. It's got like the Carroll Shelby front end realignment system on it, or kit, or whatever it is. Good struts and everything, wider tires. And I'm gonna tell you, it handles like a normal car, and that's not at all derogatory. Like it honestly, it drives like a modern, like a 2023 Corolla. It handles like that, because if you think of like how to have modern car handling in 1968 would be on Mini Cooper, which is terrible to live with by modern standards.
Sure.
No, this one feels as comfortable as a modern car, and it handles corners like a modern car.
So they use like sway bars and things like that instead of just putting rigid springs in cars?
Yeah, and so like what's really interesting about this is like every single car of this era I've ever been in, it's either been the Buick where it just understeers quite literally everywhere as a rear-wheel drive vehicle because it's designed to do that.
Sure. That's safe, right?
Yeah, or it's a 70s Mopar where if you even look at a corner, the car's careening off the road. This handles super well, and it sounds great. I mean, yeah, obviously it's a 289, but like what's really interesting here is that's a 4.7 liter engine. And that
nobody ever does that math,
yeah,
right?
No, I had to do that math. Like, it's a 4.7 liter engine, and that revs faster than most turbocharged 1.6s from today. Like, you get into random Mini, Fiesta ST, whatever car you have, a EcoBoost, I guess, or not EcoBoost,
EcoSpoot?
what's the one that GM makes?
EcoTech?
EcoTech? Is that the one that was in the Cruise?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
the
that
EcoTech
one.
family started in like 08, I think.
Yeah, so the Cruise, the 1.4 from the Cruise, even like my Fiat, like this revs faster than that.
Is it just a consequence of a lighter flywheel, you think, or
No, it's just a very well balanced engine with a perfect carburetor on it. Like
Gotcha.
it's just so well.
no stumble?
Like honestly, like the Buick revs, as it is, the Buick opened up with the carburetor it has, it will rev like similar to my Fiat. Like that's how quickly it'll rev.
Sure.
In neutral,
Which is impressive with the torque converter the size of that thing.
Yeah, and so like the thing is like yeah, it's got a huge flywheel on it though, so it's like it keeps a lot of momentum going, which is like a strange thing. They go, oh, it has a huge flywheel. Like no, it actually like keeps it like kind of like moving a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, like actually. Like, when you put lighter flywheels on nailheads are really fucking weird engines, because, like...
Are they externally balanced?
I have no idea.
I don't think they are.
No, I think they're internally balanced. I think they just have giant weights on the inside.
I wonder if it was done for NVH then, because they were in higher class cars.
Well, they were... what they were trying to do is they wanted the car to be as smooth as possible in every way.
Yeah.
And so they did a lot of like, weird things on nailheads that, like, to just make the car, like... be as luxurious as possible in like 1955. So like it's like a lot of things where it's like, yeah, it's got super heavy flywheel, still revs fine. Like it is a 6.3, 6.1 liter or something like that, V8 that 401, you do the math.
I think it's more. I think that's 7 liters, isn't it?
Might be. But it's when you put it through like the carburetor size calculators, it says it's supposed to have like a 600 CFM carburetor, and that's where it's but like that's the thing is like for drivability on stock cam, but on a nailhead you throw like a 850 on it, it's fine. You can put two 750s on it and it'll be fine. Like
Those
it'll
are
take
big dual quads.
Yeah, you put all the carburetor in the world on it, and it'll be fine. Like, when you won't get any worse fuel economy because of the stupid transmission. Like, nailheads are weird, but like, back to the 289. Like, this engine is not like my nailhead or really any other American engine where it revs so freely. It is just, it honestly feels like when you get into a modern Mustang, and then you get into this.
Yeah.
This feels more modern than a modern Mustang.
Are you specifically talking about the powertrain or like
Powertrain, drivability.
Interesting.
Like, because a modern Mustang, you still run into, every single person flies off the road with them because they have independent rear suspension that's poorly sorted out. Like, this has just a beam axle in the back, like, and it's fine. Like, it's got its like old 4-link, like solid rear axle, but that's perfectly tuned. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it has its limit, but like, right where that limit's going to be. It doesn't come up on you like on a modern Mustang where it's just like, surprise, you have no more traction. Here's a crowd.
You don't have a Coyote and an 8-speed auto that's upshifting, Mopar syndrome, careening people into crowds.
Exactly, no. And it's also got this silly long extended Hurst shifter.
Hell yes.
Which puts the shifter exactly next to the steering wheel. So you have to move your hand exactly about 8 inches.
Is it the Lotus metric where it's a hand's
Basically,
width?
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is so good, even in 5th gear.
Oh, God.
Like, it's a perfect shifter.
I love a big old Hurst shifter.
Darren got himself a perfect Mustang, and I'm very, very happy for it. It runs a little hot because it's a flat track racer. It does not like sitting in traffic. It will cruise at 80 miles an hour just fine.
It probably likes that better, frankly.
It actually enjoys that, yes. And it had a fuel leak from a 55-year-old fuel line, which we replaced. That's actually happening in this photo. That's why there's a little bucket over there.
I thought it was just having a little dribble.
No, and then apparently water comes out of the instruments when it rains.
Instruments being the things in front of you inside the car.
Yes. Water comes out of those.
How does it get in there?
We don't know.
Okay.
Darren discovered that this morning. When he drove through a rainstorm for the first time. He goes, that's curious. He's like, Sable's saying next to him, and he's going like, what's up? And Darren's like, my feet are wet. And he goes, oh. And he goes, where's the water coming from? He goes, from the speedometer.
Because that's the logical path for water to come from the cowl.
No, he sent us a photo. His leg will never, ever be dry again.
I'm honestly not even mad because
his right foot will never ever be dry. That's gonna be wet forever.
You know what you need? High water pants. Those were all the rage in the 60s, right?
Yeah. If you look, he's driving the car along with water coming out of the dashboard. That is most definitely coming out of the dashboard, not anywhere else.
There's not
and specifically the instruments, because if you see the passenger, it's fine.
Yeah, it's not even just the binnacle. It's even the center mount instruments. All of the gauges.
Yeah, the gauges are wet. It's got very wet gauges.
I love that the stereo's still working.
He's drying out a sock.
For the audio listeners, the man has a hairdryer in the neck of the sock. And it's quite and inside of a shoe. That's an innovative method, frankly, as long as you don't trip the
well, you see,
thermal fuse.
Darren is an engineer.
I know. And he's been on the show. It's been a while. But
these are engineer solutions. So
I have something that does air and heat. I'll use that to dry out this thing that needs air and heat.
Exactly.
It's a simple solution for a simple problem, really.
That has been the Mustang versus the imiev, and they're both great in their own way. Like, honestly, the world would be worse with either of these cars not existing as they are.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. They're both fantastic. Juxtaposing them, they're both 10 out of 10.
I am not surprised to hear that the imiev is that good. I'm a little bit surprised to hear how much you like a first-gen Mustang, but in the guise that it's
blown away that, like, I said in that Instagram post, I said, also, I reached the maximum post like that on Instagram. I've reached the character limit. I said, like, I get the hype now. Like, I understand. Like, every single boomer ruins these and does not build them correctly. But now I get why people like these Mustangs. Like, they're really cool cars. Yeah. But you don't build a Mustang for drag racing. That's not a car to drag race. That's a car you road race.
No, Bullet's starting to make more sense now.
Yeah, Bullet makes sense. Yeah. Like, I get the point of Bullet. Right. Like, yeah. But anyway, let's talk about your thing.
So, Tesla, I know. You can sigh now, get it out of the way. But You're very well aware, I'm sure, at this point, of the connector they've been using for charging, both DC and AC, since 2012.
Yeah.
The Tesla Roadster did not use it. It used a proprietary connector.
Ooh,
But-
speaking of proprietary
Yeah,
connectors,
no, go for it. What's up?
I learned a cursed thing about South America.
Oh, great.
Every South American country, they don't regulate their connectors for EVs.
Bro. Like the car side one?
Yeah, and so, like, so BYD is
Yeah.
like big in South America.
Yeah. Well, they're big everywhere except here.
Yeah. Oh, so BYD has their BYD connector, the Chinese connector.
Interesting.
Renault has their European connector, and Tesla has the American connectors.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still have things like iMieves there with their old school Mitsubishi connector. So every single
In that country, Tesla's used the North America connector?
yes, in South American countries.
That is cursed.
So in South America, there are countries like I think it's like Uruguay has like they don't like every single car has a different connector on it.
Holy shit.
Imagine if every single car had a different sized filler hole for the gas tank. That's what this is like.
It'd have to be like a different shape, too, just
Yeah,
to make sure you
like one
couldn't-
square, like one circle, but like really small.
I'm now
One's a
picturing-
triangle, but bigger than the square, and there's a star, and they're all different.
I was gonna just say the star. I'm picturing these like 3D printed adapters where you gotta...
That's like I think that's what people are gonna have to do. Like it's very cursed. So
And like the insult to injury there, too, is like with fuel, if they did that hypothetically, like, but the fluid is the exact same. It's compatible. And the energy, not only the energy, but the actual standard behind it, the signaling,
Yeah.
the pinning,
Well-
the voltages are all exactly the same across
so
these connectors.
this is the thing. I learned this when I was sitting at Ferris. I talked to my friend Emilio has a great combination of cars.
Yeah.
His daily driver is a Model 3, and his autocross car is a Lotus Elise.
Oh, yeah.
That's a collection. That's a two-car solution right there.
Yeah, I can't fault the Elise.
No, that's a perfect two-car solution.
You got to get one that has a dent on the back clamshell and it's been written off, and then it's even better.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure what he did, but his is absolutely incredible because if you ever take a look at Elise, the VIN stickers are made with a off-the-shelf 3D printer. Like, it's a very stinky supercar. I love it a lot.
I knew their fence stickers were shitty, but I've never actually looked at one.
He was going to drive his Model... He went to that Saint Pierre island, the French island off of New Brunswick, that you can just take a ferry to.
Okay.
That's how you can get an Aventime.
Oh, this...
Here.
Yeah.
That,
I remember.
that little...
Okay.
He was going to take his Tesla there, and then he found out that in Saint Pierre they use the French connectors.
Oh, no. The Type 2s?
The Type 2 connectors, yeah. So he would have to get...
They do make adapters, but...
Yeah, but he doesn't have one immediately on him. And he's like, yes. He goes,
That's understandable.
He goes, that was cursed. And he goes, what's even worse is currently there are countries in South America where we are in this hell, and
Yeah.
every car has a different connector. Yeah.
I'm picturing this because, yeah, I mean, Type 2... So Tesla's in the rest of the world predominantly, apparently
Yeah.
not everywhere, they use a Type 2 connector. So they don't use the NaCS connector that we're used to here, which is just the two big pins. It's like the oval thing. You've seen it. but-
Yeah, I know ours, yeah.
So Tesla has been using that on all of their vehicles since
It's a great
2012
system,
here.
yeah.
And it's a really compact connector that can do AC and DC up to like 300 or 400 kilowatts. But CCS, combined charging system, is what everyone else has been using, which is based on the Type 1 connector
Yeah.
or the Type 2 connector. So CCS exists in both of these realms. But for this story, I'm specifically talking about the United States, where you look at everything EGMP, you look at Volvo, you look at Jaguar, you look at Zero, the electric motorcycles, everyone uses CCS. It's a really big connector, but it's able to handle twice the voltage, twice the amount of, actually 4 times the amount of wattage. And
Why would you not just use that?
literally everyone except for Tesla uses it. But last week, Ford, out of nowhere, announced that they were going to be putting the Tesla NaCS connector on the Lightning.
Like an Access CCS?
Nope. Instead of the CCS.
But that's worse.
It is worse. But their point was like, well, all the Tesla supercharger networks have that connector, and it's smaller, it's more compact.
Why don't you just provide an adapter on Lightnings?
Well, and like a lot of these, so in order to get federal funding, we talked about this with the charging network, Tesla had to incorporate some way for other CCS EVs to be able to plug in to the superchargers,
Yeah.
and those solutions exist. It's called the Magic Dock. A few of them already have it, and it should be rolling out to more. The problem has been solved, other than Tesla not putting CCS on their cars, which they do in Europe, but they don't here.
That is
It's messed up.
No, that's really stupid. Like, there's a reason that Tesla is losing their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they make a bespoke connector for one fucking country.
Yes. Yeah, and they push it super hard. But, like, the fact that Ford jumped ship on this, and even the Autopian, like, I disagree with this caption. The caption on the article is Ford is right. Tesla should win the charging port wars.
Why
Their
do
whole
they
point
agree with
was
that?
is because it fits anywhere. It's a very, very compact connector, and currently, in the United States of America, half of the new EVs sold are Teslas. So they're like, well, yeah, everyone else uses the CCS connector, but the actual number of electric vehicles sold, NaCS, is the most common. So like, why don't we just do that too and tip the scales? But there was a response, and I didn't even know this until Scott pointed it out, but there's a regulatory body called CharIN, which is it's all of the automakers, including Tesla, are in this in the United States, and they set the standards for charging connectors. And they're like, you can't actually do this because Tesla NaCS is proprietary, it's patented, and it's not a standard.
Yeah.
So they're telling Ford, sorry guys, you can't do that. So I'm really, really hoping that this is like the final straw for NaCS.
Yeah, no, fucking NaCS. This is stupid. Like, this is very reminiscent of 1980s and early 1990s computer gaming.
Okay.
So, the reason that Roller Coaster Tycoon was so great is it would operate as an operating system. It was written in assembly. So when you actually boot it up, it boots it up and just turns off everything else. It just runs. So, like, you can get out of it, you can back out of it, but the way that Roller Coaster Tycoon works is that it is made in the next level up from binary.
Okay.
As you have binary assembly, then, like, you get to, like, basic and stuff like that.
Sure. Scripted languages.
Yeah, scripted languages. So, assembly, assembly would be a binary would be the equivalent of, say, putting a positive and negative lead on a battery, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, assembly would be the equivalent of a connector that just has a positive and a negative together. And then when you start getting to, like, NaCS and stuff like that, that's when you start getting into, like, here's your, like, fucking creation engine. Or, like...
Oh, no.
Or here's
Lumberyard.
Here's Frostbite. Like, it just looks like
Oh,
weird
that's the
shit.
worst
Yeah.
engine.
Yeah, or just, like, weird shit like that. But, like...
I do like the game engine analogy. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but, like, in the early 80s, or in the early 90s and late 80s, you had Commodore. You had Atari. You had Apple. You had... IBM, which is Windows. Windows IBM.
No, they had OS2.
OS2.
IBM had
OS2.
Microsoft.
Windows.
DOS.
Then you had... oh, God, what was Indigo made by?
Silicon Image.
SCI had their own proprietary OS.
I forgot about that. That was a Unix OS.
Yes. Then you had... Yes, that was a Unix OS. Yes, so you had Unix. And then you had all the ones that are in Britain. Every single British computer was different. Then you had European ones and then Japanese ones. So, if you wanted to say... Let's say you wanted to release Elder Scrolls Arena, which came out in, like, 1993. 94, I think. You'd have to release it. You'd have to completely rewrite it from the ground up.
Yeah, not even just recompile, but literally
rewrite it because these use completely different base programming languages. And that's kind of what we're having to do here is like, if you buy a car, that's like, or if you're producing a car, you have to produce it 1,000 different fucking ways. And if you buy, if you could feasibly have 2 EVs in America right here, right now, that don't use the same connector.
And it makes them completely incompatible, even though the underlying charge hardware is identical.
Yeah. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, you still have, like, on a lot of these computers, you still had Intel chip. You still had motherboard.
Right, it was still x86. Like, why can't I just leverage that?
Yeah, but all of these computer manufacturers had their own bespoke operating system. And thank God, Windows won. Like, right now, we're like, okay, you've got Windows and you have Mac, and Windows and Mac are pretty similar. Like, you don't have to, like, rewrite the world. You just have to kind of recompile it to make them interchange.
And on that same vein too, like Unix for Mac OS and Linux, which is still huge, but mostly on the server side. Like, to your point, there's not much difference there, and they're all running on the same underlying hardware.
You can still run a C# written game in both of these. But back then, you have completely different programming languages. Like, you couldn't just put BASIC on all of these.
I prefer COBOL.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so exactly. Like, And so that's why, like, Roller Coaster Tycoon being written in assembly was just simple. Because
That's really
that was,
cool.
like, the very base of, like...
Bypasses all the bullshit.
Yeah, like, the guy that wrote it only had to write it once.
Right.
And then there you go, you're done. Like, it was so much more simple. So that's...
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
That's kind of where we're at today. We are just in, like, early 90s computer hell. And you know, and the thing is that NaCS is Commodore. Because in 1990, the most common computer gaming system was the Commodore 64.
Well, and like it was arguably the best piece of hardware too.
Yeah, the Commodore 64 throughout the 80s and early 90s was an incredible 16-bit gaming solution.
Yeah.
Like, it was a really powerful computer. And, like, by the time Commodore went away, by the time they, like, killed the 64, you had internet, you had... additional hard drives, you had all sorts of plugins that you could add on to the basic board. And that's why even today they make aftermarket, like, Commodore stuff. Like, you can buy a brand new Commodore 64 all from used parts. But like, the thing is if I was like, man, cool, I got Lemmings for Commodore, I love it. Mom just bought a Zenith Data Systems workbook. Cool, I'm gonna put my 3.5 floppy into that and play Lemmings on Mom's work computer, and Mom's work computer ran Microsoft 3.1. That's not compatible with Commodore. You're
sure
fucked.
it wasn't on a cassette tape?
No, it wouldn't be, because later Commodores actually had floppy drives.
Nice.
But they also, yes, they did have cassettes.
Like actual audio cassettes. When I first learned that, I'm like, that is wild.
Oh, they had all sorts of crazy shit. I've been, like, deep diving on, like, weird old computer stuff because, like...
Because you don't have enough hobbies.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like, eventually, like, one of my goals in life is I want to release a game on Commodore.
Nice.
Like, I really want to make a game on Commodore. I think that'd be very fun.
Yeah, something
And,
that could run natively on 20 or 30-year-old hardware would be cool.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do, is I want to make a little RPG game that runs on Commodore that's got, like, a modern kind of, like, gameplay, but still is, like, not just, like, retro-looking, but, like, it's literally... on a Commodore, and people do make games for Commodore still. Like, there's actually been more games released for Commodore since Commodore quit production than were originally made for it. So, yeah, that's how I know all this stuff.
I mean, that's fascinating. I do know a little bit about the Commodore 64. My dad used to have one way back in the day, but unfortunately it was gotten rid of before I
really want one. I've been asking Jana for one for Christmas for 10 years. I really, like, quite badly want a Commodore 64. Richard has several, and I'm very jealous of Richard. Richard has an entire Commodore setup with all sorts of different, like, peripherals.
I want to see his computer collection. It
It
looks
is
awesome.
absolutely incredible.
Plus, he has an awesome kitty.
Several. And chickens. He doesn't just have George.
Well, I didn't know that.
He's got, like, 8.
I didn't know that.
He's got, like, 8 cats. They're all great. They all have different personalities. They're wonderful.
Sure do love kitties.
So-
was he at Intermark?
He was, yes.
Did he bring... Oh, I'm not even going to talk
And
about it.
actually, no, we are going to talk about that because
Okay.
my next story is about Vicitoria Scott's new article about road tripping
Look at
across
that
America in Richard's Peugeot. So Victoria is absolutely one of the most incredible automotive writers I've ever had the pleasure of reading. She wrote for The Drive, Jalopnik, Autopian.
Nice.
A lot of places
That's a
like
hell
that.
of a rap sheet in a good way.
Yes. And so she actually self-published this magazine on her itch.io, which was about driving Richard's Peugeot and our mutual friend Kyle's 1981 Oldsmobile Delta 88 diesel.
Is that the V8 or the V6 diesel?
That's a V8 diesel,
Okay,
a 350 diesel, and Darren quite badly wants that.
Oh, that car is so stinky.
So that's the thing is everybody said, like, yeah, this is supposed to be bad. And then, like, Darren and Victoria and everybody were like, no, it's not, actually. It's quite good. Like, they aren't reliable because they get hot. Like, they're they're undercooled. But, like...
I thought it was block torsion issues because they didn't reinforce
They had all
it
sorts of
for-
fucking
Okay.
weird problems. Like, the main issue is cooling issue.
Okay. Which is odd because diesels don't tend to run very hot.
But the thing is when you're running wide open throttle going up an entire mountain, like, your EGTs get pretty fucking hot.
So you need to crank up the fuel delivery then.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. But anyway, so yeah, she wrote this article about because she's also trans, and it's a very interesting read because, and this is somebody who's like in the queer community, like, understands that this is how it is in America, but like this is a story that isn't often written down, is how terrible it is to get across America right now as a trans person. And like Victoria, like she's like, this is probably the last time I'm be able to take a road trip in a very long time, because like she's moving out of automotive journalism, because if she goes to a press event that's in Florida, she can or like in like Tennessee, she could literally just get arrested for existing.
Yeah.
Because we live in a bad country. That's a bad place to fucking live.
And a particularly bad time in said bad country.
And
too.
anybody that that believes that trans people aren't valid and that it should be illegal for them to exist can go ahead and stop listening to our podcast, because it's not the place for you. Like, you have no place in America. The only place that's for you is probably in the bleach aisle of Target.
Chug it, a lot of it, quickly.
But yeah, so like Victoria's article is, it's really, really, really good. And also when she's in it, she spends a lot of time talking about the Peugeot. And the Peugeot is, I'm not exaggerating, like literally the best the best car of that era. Like a Peugeot 405 Mi16 is objectively better. I'm actually kind of turning two of these. I just realized I have a separate thing about the Peugeot 405 16. It is...
That's all good. Roll with
it is actually the peak of like front wheel drive development prior to the ITR.
I mean, again, this is a 1989 model year.
Yes. So fun fact, they actually did not. They sold them in 1990, but they did not bring a 1990 Peugeot 405 to America. They didn't sell enough 89s.
I was gonna say, so they sold really well then. So was this actually a U.S. market car?
Yeah.
Oh,
it actually says U.S. model in giant bold letters under the hood.
Interesting. I figured this was imported because
they sold them here. It was the last Peugeot you could get. You can get a normal vanilla one with the 8-valve, or you could get this one. These are your options.
Dude, the Mi16 is, I mean, you'll cover this too, but like that's a closet really, really impressive engine.
I'll get into more details about that in a little bit here. But yeah, with Victoria's article, it's $4 on her itch.io, and I absolutely recommend that everybody reads it, because it goes into how America, we are grasping onto this like greatness that we once had, whereas what they did is they followed the Milwaukee Road, which is an electrified rail line for most of the Rocky Mountains. It's
cool.
Very interesting. But they've since ripped it out for diesel locomotives and torn everything down, and it kind of got rid of the great thing of America.
Sure.
And
yeah, the romance of the early interstate system
exactly.
and the rail travel.
And the whole article is kind of an allegory for kind of what America is becoming, where we are, I think a good way to describe America right now, honestly, is like we are the 2022 Dodge Challenger. Like this is representative of a greatness that we once had. It wasn't even that great, because it wasn't that great for everyone, mind you.
Right, but it was iconic.
Yes, it was the iconic American dream. We had this ideal that we were trying to get to that
like
wasn't real.
Right.
But it is very...
But everyone remembers it being real.
Yeah, everybody remembers it being real, even though it wasn't real for everyone or most people. Or
at all, potentially.
Yeah, at all, really. It was, because really when you look at a lot of the math, wasn't ever really that great. We just people could afford houses because they were very cheap. They made an ass load of cheap, shitty houses for everyone.
Not the houses you would want to live in either.
Well, I mean, back then, yes, you would, because the rise like suburbs and stuff. But yeah, it's a very, very, very good article. I really think that everybody should read this, because it's kind of what America needs right now, are more stories like what Victoria wrote. It's called The Last Great American Road Trip, and it ends in St. Cloud at the most beautiful brutalist church I've ever seen in my life.
That's in St. Cloud?
That's called St. John's Abbey.
Wow, there's something cool in St. Cloud.
Yeah, it is really, really, really good. I recommend going to St. Cloud specifically for that, and then leave when you go. Also, you can get really incredible bread there. I've never eaten a loaf of bread straight, except for their bread.
At the Abbey?
Yeah, because that's how they sell bread, because monks live there, and they make bread.
Well, they should do a monastery brewery too then.
Maybe. But they make really good bread.
Interesting.
Yes. So there you go. Victoria's article. Anyway.
Excellent. Sorry, I got to page back over real quick. Okay, so the ID Buzz.
Oh, wait. No, you have the JDM Italian collabs.
Oh, shoot. I
Yeah.
didn't even see it because there's no link. I'll leave it on this while we talk about this. So, over the downtime between our last episode and today, I finally locked myself in the garage with my Fiat 124 Spider.
Yes.
And I decided to install the front mount intercooler kit, which I bought from a notable tuning company for these cars. I've had it for about 2 years, and I have not found motivation to do this job.
And you finally did.
I did. So the main reason I haven't touched this for 2 years is because there is an instructional video that they did, the seller of this intercooler kit.
Who sold it?
They haven't paid me, so it's Aero Compulsion. But
Oh, okay, I'm familiar with them. I was curious.
yeah, it's Aero Compulsion.
Yeah.
It's a fine kit. It fit, whatever. But on their page when I bought the flasher, they're like, we can't sell you the next tune up until you fit a front mount to your car. Fine. I bought it 2 years ago, but I clicked in the bottom of that web page, and there's an edited video of installation. So it cuts out all the time where something isn't happening, and it was 52 minutes long.
Okay.
A 52-minute instructional video is ridiculously long. I have an engine out Ferrari 355 set that isn't that long.
Oh.
Anyway,
I'm
this.
used to Unreal tutorials where they're like 3 hours, and there's a reason they're 3 hours.
There's a
It's
lot
like,
of steps.
you can make it shorter,
Right.
but you make it 3 hours to make sure that's educational, so
Right.
the person remembers how to do it the next time.
Yeah, typically,
yeah.
the engine out, like nobody with one of those cars is watching it to do it. They're just curious what it's like. But
Yeah.
anyway, I finally get into that project, and I realized after I had just removed the 2 front fender liners, and I was 78 fasteners deep, that the collaboration between Fiat and Mazda on this car was maybe not fully thought out, and it became ever so apparent that this chassis was not designed to have a turbocharger or intercooler piping fitted
Yes.
to it at all. The amount of fasteners, blind fasteners, sitting between the subframe and the car that you couldn't really get to with anything except a wrench 1/12 of a turn at a time. I have no idea how they even assembled these cars, but
That's curious.
I was almost 200 fasteners deep when I had everything finally apart and on the floor. There are 11 junctions between the throttle body and the turbocharger for potential boost leaks. There weren't any, but like a lot of these, they're quick disconnect clamps.
Yeah.
And there are 11
That was
connections.
the factory one had 11 connections.
11 connections. The new one has 4 clamps total. Yeah. So, I don't know. I was actually very impressed with the sizing of the
11.
thing, but I got in there, dude, and I'm like, I got halfway through the project. And I'm like,
That's a reliability mod at that point.
it pretty much is, because the Aero Compulsion kit, it's got a new front mount, and then it's got
Yeah.
2 molded silicone hoses that are 1 piece each. One
Good.
that goes from the throttle body to the intercooler on the hot side of it, things, and then the other, cold side, and then the other one that goes to the
Also,
turbocharger.
the factory intercoolers on Fiat, on these 1.4s, they heat soak pretty quickly.
On the 500s they do, because they're this big. The one on the 124 is huge.
Twice as big.
It was massive.
Yeah.
So I think I would have been okay with the tune without it, but the amount of Mazda parts once you finally dug into it, I'm like, yeah, I can tell.
When they recommend a part on a tune,
Yeah.
it is not on accident. Like at MA Performance, MA Performance used to have their giant like factory, like body turbos, the like MA Performance Stage 4 or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And those, they would require you that you were making a minimum of 500 horsepower before you put it on with a dyno sheet. And the reason they did that is they used to not do that. And what would happen is the turbo was so big it would stall under factory,
Oh.
under factory power, and people just have big turbo for looks. But the thing is, it'd blow up like immediately
Oh.
because it would stall.
Interesting, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would just fry the turbo.
Great.
And then they'd be mad. They go, "You broke my car." And it's like, "Nope, you broke your car."
You didn't read the instructions, sir.
Yeah. And so, when they say you need to do this intercooler for the next stage of tune, there's a reason for that. There's like that tune might, raise the intake air temperatures or something.
Oh, of course it would.
Yeah.
It's more boost.
But I mean, like, it'd be to a point where it's like, okay, cool, now you're melting valves. Like, yeah.
I'm sure the multi-air loves that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that there's a reason that they ask for that.
I genuinely
intercooler.
think it's because it would blow apart all the quick disconnects
Probably,
on the factory
yeah.
piping.
Yeah.
So I would have found that out real quick from fucking around.
Yeah, and you'd be pissed, and you'd call them up, and they would tell you to go fuck yourself.
I wouldn't call
And
them.
then you'd be extra mad. You would email them.
Correct.
You would contact them.
No, I would
Of
buy the
sorts.
goddamn intercooler and be like, fine.
No, but you would contact them, and you'd be, my car broke. And then they'd be like, okay,
No.
did you get the intercooler? I don't need the intercooler. And I'm like, No, you do, because it broke, and look at you now.
No.
Because that's how it would have worked. Because it would have worked. No, that's how it would have worked for everyone. So.
Well, sure, but like
Yeah.
I would understand that. Oh
Yeah.
wow,
No,
those blew
you
apart
would
from boost
understand,
pressure.
but like what you would do is you would have put all this on, put everything
Correct.
back together, and then it would have blown the fuck. And then you're just like, great, cool.
Well, now I'm doing the 200 fastener job now instead
Yeah,
of
exactly,
when I wanted
before,
to do it.
yeah.
But anyway, a great car. But dude, every project I've done on that thing is it's very clear that I love the car, but the collab was not well thought out.
It's just, you know, Fiat doesn't think things out ever. Like you have to remember, like this is Fiat. Like Mazda only goes so far on this car.
Fiat USA too.
Yeah, like Mazda only goes so far on this car. The rest of this will be Fiat. And you know, as much as I love Fiat,
Indeed.
there are things that are very Italian on the car. The air conditioner is Italian.
Correct.
The side skirts on the 500 are Italian.
The seating position, Italian.
Yes, the seating position's Italian. Like, there's a lot of shit on this car. The plastic cover for the steering column, Italian.
Oh yes.
I had mine replaced when I first got the car, and it's already broken again because they're always broken.
Yep.
So,
They're always wiggling.
however, I'm very happy that I was able to convince Ford to put a new one on for me, and they're like, "It's not broken." I was on the. I drove it up, and then I go, "Nope, shouldn't be like that." And so they replaced it, and then I immediately hit it with my knee, like the third time I got in the car and broke it again.
Damn it.
So, yeah, the armrest and the driver's seat, Italian.
Especially the pre-2014 one.
Yes,
Yeah.
my
Yep,
armrest. Yep,
correct.
because I have a spare one, and I don't want to dig into getting it on because I don't know how the fuck to do it. But I do have a spare one for when I'm ready to do that. Now I've got air conditioning in my garage. I might do that. But
Well, now you can, so
Yes.
you don't have to.
God, I'm gonna be so excited to do a coolant flush on the Buick and this air conditioner. But anyway,
I really need to get AC in
yes,
here.
I'm glad that you finally put your intercooler on.
Thank you.
So let's get into some more detail about this 405 MI16.
Indeed.
I answered that earlier, because Richard is a wonderful human being.
He is indeed.
And Richard let me drive their 405 MI16. And I was trying to describe this to Chris Drews. He didn't quite fully understand what I meant by how great this is, but if they made an Accord SI of like the CB generation, that's
Yeah.
how this feels. And like when I say that, it's like it is more comfortable to live with, like when driving normally than a Civic. Like it's a genuinely comfortable car to live
Well,
with.
it's French.
Yeah, but
It's the
the
thing
thing
they do
is,
well.
when you like when you like go wide open throttle, you like the first like 4,000 RPM. It's a normal car of that era. Like some people would say slow by modern standards.
Sure.
It's not really. It's fine. It's actually pretty stout.
Are these like
by
140, 150
I
horsepower?
think they're one. I would Google it.
I can
I
Google it.
want to say 147. But after about 5,000 RPM, there's another engine. Like it feels like it has a VTEC crossover, but it doesn't.
Okay, so there's
There's
cam
no variable
change,
valve
no
timing.
nothing?
No, the fanciest thing on the engine is it's got a magnesium valve cover.
Oh yeah,
Very
that's
cool.
Actually, very avant-garde for
Yes.
'89. It is 150 horsepower.
Yeah, 150. And from 4,000 to 7,000, it just keeps pulling.
7,000 RPM red line's also very impressive.
Yeah, for that era. And
Yeah, big time.
I drove that. I got out and I said, "Who the fuck bought an E30?"
Well, somebody that want a rear-wheel drive, but,
But no, I mean, like I drove this car. I'm like, in 1990, if you had put me behind a 325 IS and this, I would take this any day. And I genuinely think that like the Japanese tuner market would have not taken off if they had more than 151 Peugeot dealers in the United States.
and
which
sold
is-
more than the like 8 units they probably sold in 1989.
Yeah, they did not sell very many at all.
That's truly unfortunate because I mean the 505
It is
actually
so good.
sold all right.
Yeah,
but
and the 505 was
initially-
out forever.
Right.
But the 405 was just so good. Like, and there were so many like interesting things. There's 8 ports on the cylinder head. There's 1 port for each valve. So the 4-cylinder engine has 8 tubular runners on the exhaust manifold.
Yeah, super cool.
So fucking cool.
You only see that on like super high end stuff, like the 2.516 Cosworth Mercedes had that kind of stuff. It's very, very uncommon.
Yeah, or apparently a Peugeot 405 MI16.
Yeah, you know, an everyday
which
car.
is also a 1.9 liter engine. It was 16 valves. That's why the 16's there.
Oh, yeah, I put 2 and 2 together
Yes.
there. But and also, can we talk about how French the 1.9 liter displacement is?
Yes, that's a very French displacement.
Is that a 2.0? Like, no, it's a 1.9.
Yeah, and so it has a torsion beam rear suspension.
Sure. Like a Fiat.
Yeah. Well, no, it's similar to like a Porsche of that era.
Oh, so it's got separate torsion bars.
Yes.
Oh, so it's independent.
Independent torsion.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Very cool.
Did not know that.
And no coil spring in the rear. Very interesting. And it's a fascinating vehicle, and there's so many very French things that happen on it. So, for instance, Richard's been digging into this. First
you
off, it has Vallejo infrared central locking.
That's cool.
Yes, and Richard
Straight out of the R129.
Yes, and Richard has to basically stand on top of the car to make it work, and because it's got these like very 1990s batteries in it that need to like be replaced. I told Richard, I'm like, I feel like you could probably just replace the battery with another battery. It'd probably work from like across the world. He goes, yeah. Back when I had like my Xantia, because he had a Citroen Xantia, which is the same platform as this. He's like, back when my Xantia and the central locking was working perfectly, it's still like only 10 feet away.
Oh, yeah.
So it was never great.
I do feel like the lenses aren't like super UV stable, so I think there's a lot
Yeah,
of like
exactly.
diffusion happening in there. But,
Yeah, but
the SL has that, and it's
he also found out that the lower torque mount is absolutely the most cursed thing.
so
The dog bone mount at
Okay,
the
sure.
bottom.
Yeah, okay.
It's called technically called a lower torque mount.
Sure.
But the
Just
lower
clarifying.
torque mount is, dog bone mount, as you would find on a Volkswagen, except on this, it has equal length axles, so that means it's got a intermediate shaft. And so the intermediate shaft needs to be secured to the engine somehow.
yeah, with the little bearing plate usually.
Yeah, so what better place to do it than put it through the existing piece of metal that's there? That would make sense, so you don't have to make an extra component, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so now the engine mount is also part of the intermediate shaft. So you can't just replace the engine mount. That's right there. You have to pull the entire axle apart
Which involves taking the entire suspension on one side of the car
Yes.
apart, I'm sure, right?
Yep.
Great.
to replace the dog bone mount, which is 3 bolts.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Ah!
Yes.
Ah!
Very French. There's some very French things on this car.
It designed before CAD, too. Like, somebody thought about that.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. Also, if you see that Richard sitting in the car, they really shouldn't be doing that because the hood is so thin that there's actually a handprint from closing the hood. You're supposed to just let it drop.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that
But
checks.
all the metal in the car is so thin. Like, I was feeling between the fenders, and it's like literally, yeah, feel that. It's about that thick.
So that's like 30 gauge or something?
Yeah.
That's not great.
Yeah, no.
It must be lightweight then.
Oh, it weighs nothing at all.
Perfect.
No, it weighs like 2,200 pounds, I think.
my God.
23, which is like incredible for a mid-sized sedan of that era.
Yeah, and that's
With
150
horsepower.
That's like a 300 horsepower modern car.
Yeah,
which
no,
is-
it's a good car. Like, it's incredible to drive. And like, literally getting out of this, I go, yeah, I don't get the appeal of why somebody would drive this and they go, I'm going to get an E30.
Again, it's gotta be the rear-wheel drive.
Again, I understand, and by modern context, that an E30 is a better car, but like,
I'm not saying it's a better car.
well, I mean, like, I would understand why somebody would buy it by modern, but if you're test driving 2 cars back to back,
yeah.
in 1990, and you don't care about what's front wheel drive, what's rear wheel drive,
Right.
like the driving dynamics of the 2 cars, stock for stock,
Yeah.
absolutely. Why would you not buy the Peugeot? Like, this to an E30 or to a Civic Si is what the 505 was to a W123 or a Volvo 240.
Yeah.
Like, it is just infinitely better for the exact same price point.
And yet, nobody bought them.
Yeah, it's because they had 151 dealers
Right.
and nobody knew what to do with it. I'm actually looking up Peugeot 405 MI16 curb weight.
Yeah, I probably should just clicked into that link where I got the power figure. But
It says 2,700, but that doesn't seem right.
that does
23, there we go.
Okay.
Yep. So it's 2392 for that.
for a 4-door sedan with a good powertrain. That's pretty good.
Yes, that's
pretty
very,
good.
very, very good.
Especially a comfy one at that.
Incredibly comfy. It was honestly one of the best back seats I've ever been in. Like, just like, it was such a perfect back seat. Like, the back seats are just like 1990s couch comfy.
Oh, yeah.
B-body comfy back seats. And the front seats are like E30 sport front seats.
Nice.
Like quality of seat. It's just the perfect front seat, perfect back seat.
It wouldn't surprise me if they're like Recaro frames and then French put comfy stuff on them.
Yeah,
or something,
honestly. The window switches are the same gigantic switches from 505, so you could operate them while wearing like
gloves.
Not just a glove, like an iron gauntlet. You could operate them.
I just bump it with my chastity belt. And
Yeah,
then, up
exactly.
and down.
Absolutely incredible. So if you ever have a chance to drive a 405 MI16 or buy one, do it. They are so good.
It is a bit of a shame that the effort was, I'm going to say the efforts have always been a little bit half-hearted when French cars have been brought here.
Yeah.
To market them, to get people to buy them, because, yeah.
It's so good.
They've always been comfortable. They've always been interesting, but they haven't always been like great for powertrains. And this, and again in '89,
it was a perfect powertrain. Like
And
it was a really, really. This is like when Peugeot at their peak.
and I'm guessing it's Bosch fuel injection, so it's probably
Yeah,
pretty
it's
good.
electronic fuel injection. It's fine. It's just normal electronic fuel injection.
It's a car.
It is a very good car, and it is absolutely brilliant to drive. Everything ahead of the A pillar, looks just like a 205.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's such a perfect vehicle.
Oh yeah, in the rearview mirror, you would be really hard pressed to tell it's not a late 205 GTI.
It's so good. I absolutely love it. So, yeah, I'm very upset that I don't currently own a French car that was sold in America. I think I'm gonna have to get that at some point because every single one I've been in has been brilliant. Like, and I'm not afraid to say a car's shit, but like these two cars, like for what they've done, like what their niche was,
Yeah.
have been objectively the best version of that. Like, if I were to buy a car at random in Europe today, not knowing anything European market without doing any research, the first three brands I'd go to are Peugeot, Citroen, and Renault, and then see what the best thing is there. Peugeot I probably would never buy today because they're terrible today. But back then, the thing is, this is Peugeot. Peugeot made a perfect car. And then they decided, we were done with that. We were going to go make some rubbish, and they made, like, the 1007.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But, like, you know, this is also the same company that, like, previously was making pepper mills. And they're like, now we're going to make bicycles.
Well, I mean, yeah, look at pretty much every major Japanese auto manufacturer. I mean, a lot of people came from completely different diversified
Yeah, but I mean, like,
industries,
Peugeot, the thing is, like, Toyota didn't go back to making textiles.
Correct.
So Peugeot has just, like, 180'd their business on several accounts. They have a ceramics division.
I want a Peugeot pepper mill now.
Yeah, they're great. I currently have a Peugeot ceramic bowl
Very
that
nice.
I got for my wedding. It's
I've
great.
seen
I made
those.
They're so good. So
Looked over the bowl.
they're
I'm like,
they're
what the
great.
hell?
They're like Le Croissant,
Oh yeah.
but they're dishwasher safe.
La Cuisine is not dishwasher.
No, they're not.
Oops.
Because they're not supposed to be in the dishwasher. 'Cause they're made of cast iron. That's why. These are made of ceramics, so you can put them in the dishwasher.
Very
They're
good.
brilliant.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they're very, very, very good. I absolutely recommend. If you ever can find like Peugeot dishware, get it.
All right, well, keep an eye.
Everything
I mean,
Peugeot makes is great.
Well, made.
Honestly,
I haven't driven anything modern. but
this is the thing. Everybody said the Twingo was shit, but Darren said it was great. So I trust Darren's take.
How can it not be good?
Every single European person says a Renault Twingo's a piece of shit.
Well, it's because they're used to them.
Yeah, and this is my thing is like, if I were to get into, I'm just gonna Google Peugeot current vehicles.
What if you can still get the cactus?
If I were to get into a Peugeot 208,
Okay.
and then I were to get into a Chevy Cruze, and then a Ford Fusion, I'm pretty sure a 208 would probably be the best part.
I'm guessing so.
The better of those.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing is, I would give them enough benefit of the doubt that I would give them a crack. Like, because that's the thing is, like, people also say cars are bad that aren't bad.
Also,
Like, everybody says a Mirage is terrible, and I love it.
they could still be correct, but they're wrong because we've established this so many times, and I keep being an advocate for it. Worse cars are better.
Yeah. No, like,
I want something with quirks.
yeah, no, like it could be just like a Mirage effect where it's just like everyone says it's shitty because
Because they wanted to have 300 horsepower.
they're looking at a Mirage through the lens of somebody that really wants a Hellcat. I'm like, I don't want a Hellcat.
No, God, no.
So,
I love going 10/10ths, and like the 3-cylinder sounds amazing in that thing. We're not getting on a Mirage rant, but
Yeah, but like that's the thing is like like I just don't believe people when they say it's a bad car.
well, there's technically bad, and then there's bad.
Like there's objectively bad and technically bad.
Correct.
Which is where the term stinky comes from, and this is why I'm such a proponent of this term, where stinky is something that on paper should not be desirable, but is great. Like a stinky car is like
A Mirage.
a Mirage, or like is a modern stinky car, or like a stinky car is like Darren's Mustang, where it looks like hell, but it's great. Like stinky's not a bad thing. Stinky's an endearing term. Like stinky's
That's
like
Blubsky.
yes, like stinky's very good. Like it's enjoyable. It's got weird things like the stupid Vallejo infrared central locking. That's stinky. Like stinky's not a bad thing at all.
Whereas you have something that's technically bad, like an R56 Mini Cooper S.
Yes, so
Horrible car.
absolutely stinky trash.
Okay.
Anyway, let's talk about the ID
Sorry.
Buzz.
So, Scott, I believe, is even watching, our oldest and most faithful patron, but he has, since 2019, been on the local dealership's list for an ID Buzz.
Does he
And,
still really want that?
yeah, and he actually went in last week and put money down, because now he's allowed to do that, even though he's in the middle of a legal lawsuit that involves the service department at that same dealership for the ID4 and the Lemon stuff, which we'll get to once it's finally culminated. But just this last week, hi, hello.
Hello, Scott.
Hello. He's in chat.
Near, but not in St. Cloud. I think everybody should go.
No, he's talking about where the.
Oh, yes, it is not immediately. It is like across the highway from St. Cloud, yes.
Oh, well, that's probably a better
It
spot.
is a 10-minute drive.
Oh, that's
It is.
close
It's a
enough.
very nice 10-minute drive, though. And there's a good brewery, actually. Or not Cedar Cidery. Cidery?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Cider
that's-
distillery? Cider brewery?
I'll go cidery. I have no
A
idea.
cidery. There's a good cider brewer that is immediately outside of like their like campus. So we could actually make a little trip out to go.
It's an easy enough drive, I suppose.
Yeah, to St. John's Abbey. Go get some bread. I think they're open till like 4 serving bread, and it's like an hour drive. And yeah, it's great. It's a very good place to go. I recommend it.
St. Cloud's an easy drive. Everyone drives 1,000 miles an hour anyway. But last week, VW finally brought the global spec long wheelbase one out. We've never seen any real details on the long wheelbase one, which is what we're getting here.
Yep.
And that's the one that he will inevitably get. However, although it looks fine, we learned a few things that aren't necessarily fantastic.
Such as?
One being the battery was supposed to be in the 110 to 120 kilowatt hour sizing range.
Yes.
And you kind of need that for a vehicle that isn't going to be efficient.
Yes.
Turns out it's going to have a 91 kilowatt hour gross battery, which is 84 or 85 kilowatt hours usable. And
How many miles is that?
it depends, because there's a new electric powertrain that's supposed to be more efficient. But if it gets ID4 efficiency or worse, that's like 2.2 miles per kilowatt hour. So you're talking 160, 170 miles. That's not great, and that's a lot of juice.
This is a big ass van. This is gonna be used for road trips. They need to amend that.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that's drag is 0.29 at least. Yeah,
Ugh.
what's the frontal area though? That's not a bad drag coefficient. And I mean, it is slippery looking, but Scott was also saying that the allocations apparently that come to the dealer, there's only a fixed number of each color scheme that will be brought into the States. So picking one that isn't necessarily the most popular combination might give you a better shot of getting an allocation. So
No.
he's planning to get the orange and white, the
Good.
creamsicle, which I think
That's
is
the
great.
correct one.
But the lime and white apparently is the most popular, because that's what was always shown off initially.
That
with
the lime and
early
white
prototypes.
sounds terrible.
I mean, I'd be fine with either one, but anyway, I was a little bit let down by the battery. It will mean that it's also going to be less expensive, which, I mean, take that for what it's worth. I don't even know if it's going to be, I assume it won't be eligible for the tax credit, so things like that. But at least, actually, there was a new wheel that was shown off too.
I just don't trust them. Like they're very cute and all, but I don't know.
Oh, it's going to be a terrible car. It's going to, I'm sure, get lemoned out. But, you know,
at least they'll have it.
I don't know. I like how
I
it
mean,
looks.
I'm
It's gonna be
happy.
a
I'm
terrible
happy he'll
vehicle.
finally get his car that he's wanted for so long.
Well, I mean, how many times this thing's been pushed back? We've been talking about the Buzz since pretty much the beginning of Motor Called, let alone
Wow, that is quite a good
heat pump
drag
now.
co-
Yeah, that
coefficient.
okay. I'd forgot about that, so that's good. No credit, made in Germany.
Oh, it has a heat pump too.
Yeah, that is good. So that will help efficiency quite a bit, because where we found the ID4 really falling short was anything that involved the heater. Once you actually got into the warmer weather, it was very similar to the Model S, so I think closer to 3 or maybe even a little bit above 3 miles per
I'm
kilowatt
looking
hour.
for cars with equivalent drag coefficients, so you can get like a ballpark of. Yes,
0.29?
that is as It has the same drag coefficient as a Subaru XT6.
Which is a very aerodynamic car from the
Yes.
80s?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect.
A Peugeot 207.
Ah.
A Renault 1916 valve.
Ooh.
Yes. A Toyota Camry from 1996.
Wow, all of these things are going to be more
A
reliable.
2003 through 2009 Toyota Sienna. The
Oh,
Mark
wow.
IV Volkswagen Jetta.
I'm surprised the Sienna was that good.
Yeah, this is very interesting vehicles.
Yeah, he cares. He likes the electroluminescent
Fiat
roof,
Tipo.
whatever. Speaking of Fiat Tipo, next episode. So cute.
Ah, yes. The correct CRX. 1988 CRX HF.
So basically, we're looking at a much less reliable somehow.
Oh, wow. Lexus
CRX.
LS400.
That was an aerodynamic car.
That was 0.29 drag coefficient.
Excellent. That was
Yeah.
very impressive back in the time.
All these cars have been naming off of a 0.29 drag coefficient. A Neo ES8.
The
a
Sienna is
Skoda
probably the most comparable because it's got a similar frontal area, I'd imagine.
A Paragua Bezza.
Each half of the third row seat is 62 pounds. That's still pretty heavy, but manageable from an able-bodied person like yourself.
I regret to inform you that if you wanted a more a lower drag coefficient, you could get a Chrysler Concorde.
I would
That is
pass.
0.28.9
But
or
how-
0.289.
But what does that do efficiency-wise, you see?
Yeah, there's a transmission that lets you down there.
Oh my god. Oh, yeah, or the 3.5. The 3.5 might also bite the bullet. I still can't believe Tina's driving her 300. She still has that car.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a piece of crap.
That's the longest lasting 300 I've ever
It
heard of.
is, and oh my goodness, what a piece of junk. 200 kilowatt charging. Yeah, that's still not impressive these days. In fact, that's actually bad. For a modern EV that's got a battery that size, I would expect at least being able to saturate at some point in the charge curve 350 kilowatts. That being said, if it can do 200 up to like 70 or 80% SOC, I'd say that that's actually a pretty good development. But
You could get a Qipeng P7, which is a 0.236 drag coefficient. That's like a Chinese version of a Lucid Air.
perfect. Wish.com Lucid Air. There you go.
There you go. Or a Tatra T77A.
Ooh, is that
0.21.
yo? That's the same as the 850.
That's the one that's in the one that's in the Art
MIA?
Museum. Yeah, MIA.
Cool, I like that
T77.
thing.
That's a good car.
I don't know. The Buzz, I'm glad we finally have details on the LWB. I'm very disappointed by the battery. Scott's mentioning it's a 400 volt system, not an 800 volt. So that seems odd for a brand new vehicle, but it is based on a platform that's now 4 years old. So I kind of get it. I don't know. It's a great looking vehicle. I'm sure it's going to be very practical for his uses. We'll keep covering it.
Well, also it looks good. So it's on when it's in the driveway on its way to be limoned out. Scott can at least enjoy the aesthetic of it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great lawn ornament.
Yeah, no, or you know what? I'm rooting for Scott. I hope I'm wrong, but
You're not gonna be wrong.
I don't see myself being wrong.
Especially
I want to be.
'cause-
I wish I was. I don't. I hate being right when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, but you
So-
are.
No.
So it's gonna get lemoned out. I don't know. Yeah, it's still MEB architecture. I don't know. It should be fine. I'm curious to see what the technical updates will be in the next couple of years after that. He had mentioned if it does get lemoned, at least he'll be 2 years further down the road for another like a Westfalia Buzz or something like that, which would be interesting. So we'll see. We'll follow the saga.
They'll
But
probably get a Winnebago actually because they can't import the Westie.
oh, you're right.
But
Same
the
reason we can't get
Winnebago
switches.
is modified in America. That's actually why later model Eurovans were Winnebagos, not Westies. Like
I
the
didn't
last-
even know that.
Yeah, the very last Eurovan campers were Winnebagos.
I wonder if that complication of like basically reproducing it's like ATS in convertibles back in the day. I wonder
Yeah.
if that would make it a U.S. vehicle, so it'd be eligible for
It might actually probably would be, yeah.
credits or something like that. Or
That would actually probably work, yes. Yeah.
well, in a couple of years when this one gets lemoned out,
There you go.
we'll find out.
Yeah,
But
you'll find out. There
yeah,
you go.
no, I mean to Scott's point too. Again, this is the first model year of their new 280 horsepower rear axle instead of the 204 horsepower one. So there's going to be problems, I'm sure, with that.
Oh, I'm sure it'll probably just like blast through wheel bearings and suspension bushings and just be generally broken most
30
times.
gauge wire, I'm sure it's going to be somewhere in there too.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah, it'll be
Yep.
great.
All right. Well,
All right.
awesome. Bye.
Cool. Thanks everybody.
I'm going to go stand outside. Around this fucking lot.